Welcome to Shutter and Flow. Today we are doing part two of business basics. If you haven't listened to part one, that was about branding and portfolio. So go back and listen to that. That's kind of foundational. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about how all of your sites, social media, everything kind of connects together, all the backlinks, things that you should make sure you have on all those things. And then we'll also cover a little bit about sort of online marketing or social marketing. And then we can talk a little bit about some other things as well. Tracking things through a CRM. Most people won't know what a CRM is, so maybe we'll touch on that a little bit. And for part three, which we'll do next week, we'll probably just cover some additional things. So I guess we left off last week. We were talking a little bit about portfolios. So Jeremy, I know we kind of mentioned some photographers that we think have really good portfolios, some that we think really have bad portfolios, or that at least they should update. I don't know if we talked about last week how often people should update their portfolios. What have you kind of seen in the industry, and how often do you think people should do this kind of thing, rebranding, portfolio, all of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because one, I think we're all bad at it. I think unless you have someone like you get high enough up, I know people that have designated employees or assistants, whatever it may be, that work full time with them that will do this for them. Or then you get into reps that can do some of this for you, or have different websites that reps run, that they control all of that separate from your website. So it could be a different option. I think quarterly is a good way to just make sure you're adding new stuff to your actual website portfolio, so it isn't the same year round. Obviously with social, you can post new stuff all the time and it's always getting out there. So you can treat your Instagram, for instance, as a second portfolio where you're getting more stuff out there, and then I like to think to leave your website as your best stuff, and you're really like curated down to what you want to be the best options for you to put out in the world in that one spot. So do you agree? Do you think quarterly is a good way to break that down?
Yeah, I think adding new imagery quarterly is great, because then at least you're doing kind of these little mini refreshes, and at least once a year, really taking a hard look at everything in your portfolio and kind of doing a little bit of a pulse check and saying, is this all the best representation of what I'm currently shooting or the work that I'm going after? And often the answer will be yes. And so you don't really have a lot of work to do. But sometimes you may say, in the last year or two, I've started shooting a lot more of a different type of work, and that's not represented as well. And then you may want to do a rebuild. But I do think quarterly is great to go in. Is there anything that you've shot in the past quarter or maybe in the last half of a year that you think is portfolio worthy? And I think you made a really good point that posting on social media is great because you're basically having an opportunity to show work that might not end up in your portfolio, but you'll maybe get some feedback. You might post something that you're not sure, and it gets a really big boost in social, or it gets a lot of interaction. And you may say, oh, this image or this project I worked on that maybe I didn't think was my best work, people seem to really like. And that's at least food for thought. It doesn't mean you have to add it in your portfolio, but it does kind of give you some of that instant feedback. So that kind of leads me to the backlink thing, right? Because
Real quick, because I just want to say that can be dangerous too, because say you do something out of nowhere, say a shoot comes in that's a little different than your normal stuff, and you do it and you post it and it gets good social media reviews. You have to make sure that you don't suddenly change directions because of that one little thing. Right. It's like a social media thing can be fleeting, and you don't want to like try to reevaluate everything you've worked towards and everything you've done just because, oh, this did well. Maybe I should do this all the time and only do that.
100%, right? Because that goes back to the branding, right? That goes back to well, is this what I do and what I shoot? I think I more mean in the sense of if you have something that's already within your wheelhouse, the type of things you shoot, and it's just an image that you're not 100% sure whether or not it's going to land in your portfolio, and people seem to really like it. Doesn't mean it's going to land in your portfolio, but at least it gives you some of that feedback. Obviously, if you are a photographer who shoots food and for some reason you're hired to shoot a magazine cover with somebody famous on it, of course that image is going to get a lot more sort of press, I would say, than maybe styling food for a restaurant. But that doesn't mean that you're going to switch gears and become an editorial photographer just because of that. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. The backlinks. So one of the things that I always, when I'm working with somebody, make sure that they check immediately, or one of the things that we go through in person, is all of the links from your LinkedIn, Instagram, your website, or if you have anywhere else that you're showing work, because you want to make sure that on your website, it is very easy for people to find your social media accounts, and from your social media accounts, very easy for them to find your website. And it is surprising how many people get this wrong a little bit, where you might have to dig to find some of their contact information, or you might have to dig in order to find one of their accounts or their profile. Make it easy for people. If you are using these things to market yourself, you need to make sure that an art director has no problem finding whatever they're looking for if they're considering hiring you for something. And that's something that anybody can do right now. Go look at all your pages. What does your headline say? Does it link to other things? What do all of your profiles say? Like, are all those links actually there? Because that is going to drive somebody crazy if they're like, wow, I really like this person's work, but their website doesn't link to anything else and their contact information isn't readily available. If it's just an email address and that's all anybody can find on you, that's not great. You want people to be able to dig into what you do a little bit more.
Yeah, and I always notice that, especially Squarespace and most of the website building places, that a lot of people go in and start doing their own and build it that way, which is totally fine. It's doable. It's going to look better if you get someone else that's a professional in it to do it, but it's very doable to build your own. But if you don't go in there and change some of the stuff, especially on the very bottom, there will be a link to social media things, Twitter, X, Instagram. They're all listed on there. If you don't change them, they are Squarespace, like say Squarespace, the default is to go to their Instagram. So if someone goes on your website, goes to the bottom, clicks the little icon for Instagram, it goes to Squarespace's Instagram if you don't take the time to change that. And I've seen that more than I would like to admit or could believe on some professional websites that I thought would be like really legit, and you click on it, it doesn't go, it goes to something totally different.
Yeah, and it could be the fact that somebody doesn't use those links very often, right? It could also be that somebody doesn't really have much of an Instagram presence, or they don't really use LinkedIn at all. But if you are going to put any of those things there, they should actually work.
Well, and the issue is the default is they're there. You actually have to go in and delete some of them if you don't have that and if you don't link it properly. Otherwise, it'll just be there at the bottom.
If you have a Squarespace site, it takes 5 minutes. It's really not something that takes a long time. Just make sure all your links work, and then spend a little bit of time thinking about strategy. Where do you want people to land? Is it more important for you that people land on your Instagram page or LinkedIn page or your website? And if you have an answer to that, then make sure that everything else is driving people to where you want them. So if your goal is to get somebody on your website to then email you, then make sure that you're kind of driving people in that direction, but also give them the opportunity to decide where they want to go to. You can't just say, hey, click on here and go to my website and give them no other information. They might be more familiar with a different platform and may not want to scroll around on your website, they may just want to look at your LinkedIn page or your Instagram. So I think it's important to have those three things really buttoned up and to make sure that at least they're built out to some sort of extent so that somebody doesn't immediately go to one of those things and then leave and just say, oh, I can't find the information, or I don't see what I want to see here, and then just go to the next person. So I think that's kind of important. Most creative directors, I think a lot of people use Instagram. I think Instagram is great. It's a good way to find cool art and photography and creative people out there. I will say that LinkedIn is misused or underutilized by the creative community. And I have seen a lot of crazy stuff on LinkedIn. There's people that have pages and profiles that are not even filled out, which isn't great because somebody might find you on there. But more importantly, LinkedIn is the best tool to be able to reach out to people directly. And so if you want to market yourself, there's marketing and advertising. Posting on LinkedIn, it's kind of like a little advertisement. You're saying, here's my work, here's what I do. If you're writing an article or getting a little more in depth, you can do that better on LinkedIn. And then you're able to actually reach out to people individually and build more of a relationship. Not that you can't do that in Instagram, but the nice thing about LinkedIn is it makes it easier to track. And so I think that's super important. And I also see people doing what they would do on Instagram on LinkedIn, and that doesn't work either. So you cannot go on LinkedIn and post multiple times a day with images that look the exact same over and over. You are going to drive people crazy. And if somebody does accept a request from you to connect, there's a good chance they're going to be upset that they did and see if they can undo that, which isn't as easy to do in LinkedIn as it is in Instagram.
No, the unfollow button on Instagram is a lot easier to get to. And yeah, it's like, yeah, you're on, I see LinkedIn as if you're going to write articles about the state of whatever your industry that you're working in or things like that. If you want to write more in-depth stuff, or it's less visual, honestly, for the most part, I find it.
It's becoming more visual. I think now you're starting to see, like in a feed, you will start to see more videos than you did in the past, and you will start to see more images that you did in the past, a little less writing. So it is becoming more visual, which is good for photographers. And I think it's a lot easier to reach people than you think on LinkedIn. What's interesting about LinkedIn is that when you are connected to somebody, if they like something that you post, if they like it, anyone in their network will then see that populate in their feed. So let's say that you connect with a bunch of art directors or creative directors in whatever field you're in, and then those people, you start to interact with them. Their networks are also then going to start to see that interaction. So it's a really great way to sort of build a bigger network, and then in that network be able to reach out to people that you think might be good people to work with. And so I think that kind of leads me a little bit to the next topic, which is actually networking, connecting with people, right? So you're amazing at networking in person. That is just natural to you. I think there are some people who are really good at that, and there are some people who are really bad at that. There are people who you cannot take to a cocktail party, right? And there are other people who can go in, not know anybody, and by the time they leave, make a few friends. I think you're that person. What have you seen people doing wrong, at least in in-person networking with photographers?
Um, it's unfortunate for the last few years, it is the complaining about the state of the industry as opposed to looking at the bright side. Yeah, things changing, entertainment stuff's down, which I have a lot of people in that. And it's more about like, oh, it's not like it used to be, but like, it doesn't matter, but let's find out what we can do to make it better. So that when you're coming in on kind of a downer, it makes it hard to be upbeat on things. That's a definite one that is like, oh, that's it. Another one that I see can be tough, and I am bad at doing this too, but it's like constantly just wanting to show things you've been working on and like literally show it on your phone or whatever. Sometimes you make something cool and you want to show it. Okay, but you don't jump to that right away.
Yeah.
like talk about other people, ask them questions as opposed to just trying to make it about you.
Yeah. Talk to people about things that aren't necessarily work. I think that's if you're meeting somebody in person and you find a connection with them that has nothing to do with the work itself, there's more likelihood that you'll end up actually becoming friends with that person, or they'll remember you, or whatever it is. If, let's say, you're both really into hockey and you start talking about hockey, they'll remember you more than if you just say, "Hi, this is what I do. This is what I shoot. Let me start showing you the work. Do you have anything we could work on?" Or
Yeah.
you're going to scare people away.
Yeah. I mean, I think, God, how many CNN headshot days did we do? And how many times did you hear me ask pretty much the same questions to every person?
Yep.
Not quite. I'd vary it up a little bit, but I've traveled a lot. I go a lot of places for either work or personal. Every time, I mean, over the time I was at CNN, I think I shot like 2,500.
A lot.
I can't even keep track of all. But I would ask them where they're from. Because I've been a lot of places, I would say 70% of the time, if they said where they were from, I could either have been there, I know something about it, and it creates a conversation
Yeah.
and gets them comfortable. And that can be the same thing at a cocktail party, a networking event, where you're just like discussing life and other things and not just like, hey, what do you work on? How can you make me work with that? What can we do? It's just about being a interesting person that has things to say that aren't just only work related.
Yeah, being interesting, I think is a good
The
thing.
Koshman
So,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that leads me to thinking about this in that online should be the same way as in person, because when I connect with people, a lot of times it is, I will say, "Hey, I really like this project that you did," or I'll try to strike up a conversation, or whatever it is. But I treat it as if I'm meeting them at a cocktail party and that I am meeting them in person or meeting them through a friend, as opposed to treating it like, "Hey, this is what I do. Give me work." I don't even talk about what I do because I don't know if it's a good fit. I don't know if it's somebody that I'm going to want to work with. Like, who knows, right? And so it's just about networking. Like, you just don't know. And so if you immediately start with, "I am just going to take from this person," then they're going to smell that a mile away. They're not going to want to talk to you. However, if you connect with a bunch of people on LinkedIn, you see somebody doing something really cool or posting about something that has nothing to do with the industry, and you reach out to them to talk about that, there's a better chance you'll have a relationship with that person. Will you get work out of it? Who knows? But what you will have is then you will have a good relationship and a connection with that person. And that will lead to another connection or somebody else or something. You're not burning bridges, basically. And think of it that way. It's more important to build bridges than it is to burn them down. So I've definitely see a lot of people handle this the wrong way. I get so many messages from people who are just trying to sell me something and I don't read them. I just delete them. And I think everyone does that. If you just reach out and you say, "Hey, here's my sales pitch," there's not a great chance that somebody's going to read it. It doesn't matter. And people do this same thing with email marketing, and email marketing is almost dead in a ton of industries. It just doesn't work the way that it used to. It kind of still works in the photography industry. I know a couple of creative directors who will still get those emails. And if they see work they really like in those emails or images they really like, they'll save them in a folder. They might reference them later. And so if they maybe see that photographer's work a few times, that name will stick in their head or the style or whatever it is, and they will reach back out to that person eventually. So it will work. You just have to do it in a way where you're not hammering people over the head with like a barrage of images and a barrage of what you do. It's better to try to build the connections and build them based off of what that person is doing. People care about themselves. They don't care about you or what you do. So if you reach out to somebody and you're just immediately saying, "Here's what I do, you should hire me," that's not great.
Yeah. And it's always, I think people have to understand this. It's a long game on all of those approaches. Like every agency creative director, they have go-to people that they've worked with on many things. And if it falls in a certain category, they're probably just going to go with their go-to person
Sure.
and that person's going to shoot it. So you can't expect to you send an email campaign, even if the person follows your Instagram, likes whatever, does all that stuff. That doesn't mean you're getting hired right away. It could be a year until something comes up that it fits right, because whatever you do and they do needs to align properly, and there has to be the budget for it. There's all these things that have to line up just right. So you have to know that, like Mark that we had on recently, he sent out an email campaign after doing some stuff for Delta, and he did it very targeted and specific, where it was like, these are for that type of agency industry people. It got, he called me, it's like some crazy open rate. I think it was like 90% open rate, which is big on emails.
That's
And
a lot. Yeah.
yeah. And no, nothing has actually come from it. But at least those people, like you said, were looking at it. Some of them maybe saved it. Some of them, it's like,
Exactly.
it's that type of thing where when the time comes, then there may be something that comes around
Right.
from
And
it.
some of them may remember the work, right? Let's say that in that email were some images from his portfolio or something that ended up in his portfolio. And then he sends that to them. Maybe they get another email from him 6 months later. Maybe he then connects with them on LinkedIn and strikes up a conversation. I think it's about multiple touch points of somebody kind of getting to know you. When you don't know somebody and they just reach out to you out of the cold, it's very difficult to build that relationship. It's not impossible, but it takes some time. So think of your marketing in terms of years, or maybe quarters instead of months, because it could take 3, 6 months, 12 months, longer just to build some of those relationships. That's why you also have to continually do it. Otherwise, you've got a ton of work, everything's going great, all of a sudden that work dries up and you start to blame the fact that the work dried up. But it's, have you been doing in that time marketing? Have you been networking? Have you been doing all these other things? Have you been posting? Like, what have you been doing in a year or two? If you haven't continually been doing it, of course it's going to dry up eventually, because clients might move to other companies, or maybe they don't need your services, or connections that you did have are out of the industry. Like, it's just the way it's going to go. So you have to constantly be on top of it. Doesn't mean you have to berate people, though. I mean, I can't stress this enough. You cannot just keep reaching out to people over and over and over and over again. That's probably worse than doing nothing and just putting your work out there.
Well, and I think you brought up a good point where you say people move at places, industries, things like that. That's equally important. And if you've made a relationship with someone, a client, whatever, those people may move on to someone else. If you keep that relationship going as a friend or as like whatever it may be, wherever they are, they may bring you in to shoot something of whatever that is. It's like you have to keep once you've built a relationship with someone and a connection, continue that and continue to do that and
Right. And
keep it moving.
if you play it right, you could end up with double the work, because you could say, hey, I'm super happy you got a new job. Talk to them about that. And then maybe they'll bring you on to do something in their new role. And you can ask them who took over for you in your previous role. And if it's somebody you might know a little bit, you would connect with them. Or if not, you can ask that person to connect you with them. And if you play it right, you could just end up keeping to grow your network, even as people change roles. But if you simply just say, hey, negative view, this person left that company, there's nothing I can do, I can't work with them anymore, that doesn't help at all.
Not in the slightest bit. Like I always keep connections, and like if I do something cool that I know that person would like, if it's through whatever shoot it was that they may find interesting, I'll just like send them a note, be like, oh, I did this the other day, I thought you would appreciate it.
Yeah. Or if it's something you've talked about with them before, whatever it is, right? But you have to be good about kind of remembering those people and those things, following up, remembering all the connections. Otherwise, you're just losing track. So that kind of brings me to the next point, which is a CRM. So most people don't know what a CRM is. I've kind of spent a long time in Silicon Valley in the tech world, where everyone worked at companies that have CRMs. So it's a customer relationship management software. So think of Salesforce, I think Monday, those are some kind of the bigger ones. ServiceNow has a CRM. There's a bunch of companies that build them. And think of any company you can think of with a sales team, any big brand. That company is using a CRM to track their sales, whether it's business to business or business to customers. So photographers, some of them already have something like this. It can be as something as simple as a spreadsheet. I think that's bare minimum what everyone should have. Or you can go kind of one step up from there and you can have an Airtable or a Notion, something that's built in there as kind of a CRM, or you can actually pay for a CRM. But I don't think you really need to do that as a creative. I think you can get away most of the time with a spreadsheet. And what you want to track in these things is, number one, your current clients. You want to make sure that you're tracking who all of your current clients are. When was the last time they hired you for a shoot? When was the last time you talked to them? If it goes 6 months and you have not talked to them, you should probably reach out. So that's one of the important reasons to track all this. And then when you're actually doing a marketing campaign, networking, all these things, you can track all of that in a CRM. Look it up online. There's a million videos you can watch or people talking about it. But even in a simple spreadsheet, you can track quite a lot. And even if you want to connect with people on LinkedIn and run it as a sort of a sales cycle, you could do that really easily with a spreadsheet. You can just say, did this person accept my connection request? If they did, here's what I do. If they didn't, here's what I do. Go to the next thing. And it takes some of that pressure off of feeling like, oh, I'm not getting any emails or calls from anybody, or something's not working. It reminds you of the things that you need to do to sort of stay on top of it. And it's not something you need to look at every day. It's not something you have to update every day, but it's something that you can do maybe weekly, maybe monthly, whatever works for you. And it helps you actually track things. I know one photographer who uses like a really complex Airtable thing that he built, which is awesome. And I think that there's a reason why he's always getting a lot of work in different shoots, because he's actually tracking everything. And then I know other people who, I'll ask them, how are you tracking everything? And they don't at all. And so I think it's really hard to keep it all in your head. And I think it's a lot easier if you just look at a spreadsheet and you say, oh, these people I've talked to recently, these people have hired me recently. I haven't talked to these 6 people in quite a while. Let me reach out. Or see if there's a reason to reach out. Maybe there isn't, but of those 6, maybe there's 2 or 3 people that you say, hey, I just did this shoot they might be interested in, or I haven't talked to them in a while. Maybe you're really close to them. And it just makes your life a lot easier. And it definitely makes it easier if you're going to start running any kind of campaigns, like an email marketing campaign or LinkedIn or anything like that.
Yeah. And like the people you haven't talked to, just, hey, you want to grab coffee?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to be like a marketing email or whatever. Just like, hey, you around? You want to grab coffee? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, no, that's all it takes. But if you aren't thinking about those people, it's nice to say, oh, I haven't talked to this person in 5 months or whatever it is, right? And so that's awesome. Like I said, you're very good at networking. I think it comes naturally to you to just naturally think about who you haven't maybe talked to in a while and reach out. Some people, especially if you've been in the industry for a long time, you might have a lot of contacts or people that you haven't thought about in forever. And it's probably a good thing to just follow up, say hi, see how they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, Anna, I just before I came out here, Anna was working on something. She's like, oh, I was talking to this person. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't talked to him in forever. I need to reach out to him because he does content for Fanatics or something. It's like, there's something there that I could make out of this. And I'm not saying I like him. So it's not even just like, oh, I'm going to talk to them about a job. It's like, oh, I like what he's doing and he's doing cool stuff. I'd like to
Yeah.
learn more about it. If
Yeah.
eventually it turns into something I can help with, great. If not, it's still, I'm learning about something that a different industry that I haven't worked in and what they're doing. Cause you're growing by learning from that stuff.
Yeah.
So I always look at it as it's not always what can they do for you, but what can you learn from it?
Yeah. And so that kind of takes me to the next topic I thought we'd talk about a little bit outside of networking. Posting. So
Fine, I'll post. Stop yelling at me. I don't do it enough. I know.
I think that For photographers, in order to be, I'm going to put discovered in quotes, right? Because I really don't like that word, but the way that somebody can find you that has no idea, and organically, right? Because they're actually reaching out to you, is posting on social media. It's the new billboard, right? You're not going to go out and actually put an ad in a magazine or do a billboard. We've talked about email marketing. It's a little dated, but it kind of still works. You're not going to send your book around necessarily. Not that that's always a bad idea. I think there are some people that send books around, but
But who really has God, who has a book anymore? Like, I don't have an up-to-date book. I haven't done it in
no,
years.
no. But I do know that I talked to somebody recently at an agency and they do get books. And I think that sometimes they're coming still from agents, but they do get some books. But that's not something you're typically going to do. But something you could do today, right now, is simply think of the last thing you shot that you really thought was great, post it. It's easiest thing, right? Easiest thing in the world. And then actually go on and be active in the platforms, because platforms right now are built to like people who are active on the platforms. So that's going to increase your reach. So if you just post and ghost, which is what I do personally because I'm never on social media, that's great if you just want your friends and people that know you really well to see things. If you're trying to actually build it into something, you have to be a little more active. And that means actually being on there a little bit more. You don't have to spend all day on Instagram. I think that's a terrible thing to do. I would never tell anybody to do that. But what I mean is maybe you spend an hour a week going on there, finding new people to follow, liking their things, commenting on their things. That means that when you post something, some of those people will like or repost what you're posting, but also the platform knows you're a little more active, so they might show it a little bit more. Nobody really knows how that algorithm is working
Yeah,
right
'cause
now,
it's always changing too,
it's
which
always
makes it,
changing.
yeah.
But the more active you're on it and the more followers you have, the more likely it is that random people will see what you're doing. Like I said before, you can then take that, re-edit it a little bit, and then post the exact same thing onto LinkedIn. And with that, you do know who's seeing it. It's the people that you're connected to and potentially their connections. So if your connections are really low on LinkedIn, maybe you need to start connecting with more people on LinkedIn, and not just connecting with anybody, but the right people, the people that you want to see what you're doing. It takes 5 seconds to send out a bunch of LinkedIn requests. Don't bombard anybody. I think they cap it at like 50 a day, and there's no reason you should be connecting with 50 people a
Let's
day.
go through the whole list and just like
Yeah, it's
swipe down,
crazy.
connect.
But there's some really good ways to search on there to find the exact job titles or companies or people that you want to find to actually connect with. If you haven't dug into that, I'm sure there's a bunch of YouTube videos you could just look up on like how to find and do some advanced search features. But it's really easy. And then when you're posting, you should be posting often enough to not be irrelevant, so that if somebody's curious and they're like, oh, I haven't seen what Jeremy's up to in a little bit, let me go on his page, and they see you haven't posted in a year or 6 months, that's probably not good if your plan is to have people find you there. But if you post every single day, that's also not great. You don't want to overpost. And I think there's this social media influencer thing where people think the more you post, the better. I think it's the more you post good content, the better. So good content in the sense of photography is actually something people might want to see. If you do one shoot and you post an image for that shoot like every 20 minutes for the next 6 months, people will hate you. Don't do that. So you have to find a rhythm that works right. Even if it's posting once a week, I think that's great, but it's only if it really fits with what you're shooting. If you're posting once a week and it's just terrible stuff, don't do it. If you're posting once a week and it's because it's always something new or something interesting, something other people might like, then yeah, absolutely do it. People would love to see that, but don't post too much, and don't not post at all if you actually expect to get work from social.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Instagram, with the algorithm, to get it out there more, you have to post a little more often than you do on LinkedIn, obviously.
100%.
But yes, it can become too much if you're doing it all the time. Because also most of the things you post don't even go to all your own followers, how the algorithm works.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
like you have to find that balance. And I mean, I've noticed the rule is if you want stuff to get a little more distribution and go out a little bit more, whatever Instagram is trying to promote at the moment, I think right now is like edits. They have their own editing software. really just to try to keep up with CapCut, which is just a version editing software for people that don't want to get into Premiere Pro or bigger things like that. It's they're doing their own. I noticed that if you I haven't done it, but I've seen a lot more of it. If you use that, it then pushes it a little bit more.
Right, because they're pushing the features. So yeah, I mean, that's a good hack, right? So by the time you guys will be hearing this, and probably a couple weeks from now when it's released, I'm sure that'll still be the case. Go and edit some drone video footage with that and post it, and you will probably see a lot of people seeing it. But if it's terrible, don't do it, because nobody cares. If it's really good, then people will actually notice it.
Here's what I'm going to do. I will do it. We'll do a test on this. I'm going to New Zealand and for family vacation in a couple weeks. I will obviously be doing a lot of drone footage and things like that. I will specifically use that app to make the edit and do multiple posts of beautiful New Zealand stuff and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, people like to see New Zealand anyway, so I think it would go good. But yeah, let's see how it goes. I think that's good enough for today. Next week, we'll likely dig into a few more things that we kind of glossed over a bit. All we've been talking about is branding, positioning, some marketing, a lot of social media stuff, but we haven't really talked about in some of the other kind of fundamental basic building blocks and things people should be doing. This isn't a business basics in terms of accounting and legal and copywriting. And we can talk at some point about people with their, licensing, because there's people on both sides of that fence. But maybe we'll talk about some more of those things a little bit high level in our next episode.
Wait, can we talk about watermarks with logos?
Let's talk about watermarks
with a camera on, like a little camera on all your, just don't put them on Instagram. If you, guess what, if you're, I kind of notice if you're putting on Instagram a watermark with a logo, your image isn't good enough to be stolen anyways. I think that's just kind of a level. Sorry, was that a little judgy?
Yeah, well, then you also don't have to, in the caption of everything, put the copyright for every photo that you post, because we know a few people that do that. It's probably fine. If somebody's actually interested in something and they click on it and all they see is a bunch of copywritten stuff and a bunch of like watermark stuff, they're just going to exit out of that, like they landed at the wrong part of the internet or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk about it again soon.
Thanks, everyone.